Hi there everyone and welcome to the UkeStuff channel and welcome to this UkeGuide review for the Rainbow Colours Soprano Ukulele. Now most of the time I start off these videos with an immediate sound test, tuning then sound test, and I'm not going to do that because this one arrived completely unplayable in the box. Under tension, the strings were laying flat on the frets and you could not play it. It seriously is awful. It has a few other problems that I'm going to get to later in the review, but I'm going to switch things around. Normally I talk about subjective issues, then I talk about specifications, then I summarize, and then I give a UkeGuide rating. I'm going to give the UkeGuide rating first. This was a straight out 0 on the scale of 0 to 5, being unplayable. And I'm just going to start off there. So there are a lot of reasons why it has a 0, but let me just kind of put them all together for you. First of all, I'm a music teacher and I teach ukulele. I understand budgets of schools, and it is tempting to buy an inexpensive ukulele. This is sold from a music education specialist. It's sold by West Music if you're interested in them, and West Music has them on sale. I was able to get this one for a really good price at like a Black Friday sale or something like that. So it was ended up being $20 for me shipped, and I was happy to buy it and check it out. And it was not good. Now you might say send it back for another one, but I have a couple reactions to that. First and foremost, my thought is that somebody should be checking to make sure that it's at least playable, either at the factory or at the distributor or at the company that's selling it to me. So with that in mind, somebody should have checked along the way, because these aren't just ukuleles going to somebody that can just drop it back on Amazon and get it back. This is being ordered through a music specialty organization. Now that's not picking on West, but I will say that I'm kind of disappointed that they're carrying this model, and we'll talk, there's other reasons for that as well other than just being unplayable. Could they have sent me one that worked? Maybe. Could I have sent this one back? Maybe. But there's a challenge there, and we'll get to that as well. Now, I did leave a review for this on West's website, and I think I made it pretty clear of who I was. I think I had to put my email address and everything to enter that review. They chose not to publish it because I basically said, don't buy this, it's awful. And unfortunately, they didn't publish my review that I wrote there, which kind of makes me sad as well. If you're going to allow people to write reviews, you got to take the good and you got to take the bad. And it's also a chance for them to reach out to me. Now, they are still welcome to reach out to me about this. They are certainly welcome to send me another one of these that actually works right out of the box, but I don't need that. I wanted this for review purposes, especially as it's specially outfitted for schools with those colored strings. Now, let's get into some other things. What I ended up doing was I ended up taking the measurements of this nut, and one of my Christmas presents was a 3D printer. PLA is a very hard substance, harder than ABS, and this instrument is part ABS, and we'll be coming to all that when we get into the body of this later and so forth. But I took the measurements and I figured out how to create my own nut that then allowed this to be playable. The action is perhaps a bit high, but I'm going to accept that for now. And now it will at least play. So I'm just running with that. It did need a different nut altogether. I did have to break the other nut out. Originally, I was even thinking about filling in the nut with super glue and baking soda. I decided to print my own nut for that, and it worked out. So I'm okay with that. But I'm also guessing that people buying these, generally as music educators, may be new to ukulele, may not know what's going on, may get very frustrated, and may not have access to a 3D printer or the wherewithal to know what to do to fix the problem. So it just is going to save people a lot of grief if the instrument comes at least playable out of the box. And we're not talking about an odd buzz. We're not talking about, that sort of thing. Completely unplayable out of the box. So let me now do some sound tests for you, and we'll go forward from there. So this is a very different review than I normally give. And again, I do get a little spicy when it comes to instruments that are sold for educational purposes or to beginners that are not good. And that kind of does irritate me. So, and we'll talk about it again. We'll talk about more as we just go here. So some of my normal sound test items. All right, so there are the normal sound test songs. At some point, by the way, yes, I will make a tutorial for all of those. And almost all of them are borrowed from other locations with the idea that if you compare a instrument perhaps that I'm reviewing to something else that somebody else has reviewed off of one of the other main sites, you'll have a good reference to hear generally playing the same song. That's not meant to steal from anybody. It's meant to actually give you reference points to work off of. So let's go over the subjective issues with this. It is a very inexpensive ukulele. $30 for an ukulele is pretty good. The first ukuleles I bought from my school in 2016 were all the way down to $25 and also not great. They're better than this. So with that in mind, they're very inexpensive. Now the value is zero. If your instrument does not play out of the box, the value is zero. Even with a different nut, it's still not a good value. Now, what else do you get? You get a Rainbow Colors book that the website of West says is award-winning. The thing that bothers me as I look at this is that it's based first and foremost about reading individual notes. Most people that I know that want to learn ukulele, and that includes kids, they don't want to be Jake Shimabukuro at first. In fact, they have no idea who Jake Shimabukuro is. They don't want to be Aldrin from Ukulele Underground. They want to play chords and sing the songs they know. So this approach I'm sort of against anyway. I know there are approaches that do that. In fact, all the main approaches do that. And the James Hill method or the Chalmers Doan method in Canada, I have nothing against that because they're teaching ukulele in a completely different context. They're actually leading to ukulele orchestras rather than teaching people to play ukulele individually. Now, the individual playing may come as a result of that, but that's not the focus of that teaching. This is individual teaching, and I've tried teaching students with this sort of format. It doesn't work. They eventually get to chords in the book towards the end, but that concerns me. I mean, it's a well put together book, but there's also some weird things. For example, I'll just hold this up. Hopefully this shows the right way. Do you see where it says to strum, for example? It tells you to strum over the sound hole. And again, we don't teach strumming over the sound hole. You just don't. You lose the power of the scale length of the instrument because your sweet spot is in the middle of the scale length, and fingers get stuck all the time in the sound hole. I've taught middle school and I've taught elementary, as some adults too, but teaching elementary and middle school students, if they're playing over the sound hole, you look over and suddenly their fingers are in their sound hole where they've been playing because their hands slipped through. It sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. Cynthia Lynn, one of, again, the internet leading ukulele teachers, right? She teaches to play, again, right over the fretboard and to play into the fretboard. That's where you strum. So, you know, you see things like that in a method book and you go, oh boy, I'm not sure about that. You also get some stickers so you know where to put your fingers on the first chords. I'm not a big fan of sticker methods. I know there are a lot out there. If you're a teacher that uses a sticker method, go ahead and use it. Don't change anything you do on my account, but I'm just not personally a big fan of it. And then they give you a good size. That's the size I like for leather picks or felt picks, but it's a plastic pick. So the whole thing together is just, the value just isn't there. Now, in terms of build quality, we're going to take a real left turn here, but that's okay. This is, a review of which you can skip around, by the way, on the bottom to the chapters. I didn't even mention that because I'm so out of order with this review, which is just fine. It's nice to change things up for once. But the build quality, okay, beyond the fact that the nut was cut so low that the strings were just laying on, the tuners are awful. They grind when you tune. In fact, I don't think I'm going to be playing it anymore today, so they actually grind when you're tuning them. That's a problem. It has a wooden fretboard on a plastic ukulele that is meant for education purposes. What in the world? And it has sharp fret ends, as you would probably guess. It's just bizarre, and it has a completely unfinished top. So it's gonna. I mean, kids are gonna write on that or do other things on that. It's inviting trouble. And then the rest of it is exactly the same. Now check this out, as the Panda. The Panda is an Amahi brand that is a replica of the Flight travel ukuleles. So here's the Flight. So the Panda, though, I mean, it has, look at the headstock. Look at the headstock. So it is the same instrument, same body, everything. I put the strap buttons on, by the way. Same neck, made by Panda. Flights are not made in the same factory, mind you. It is the same instrument. However, the Panda is so much better, and it has a plastic fretboard, and it has a zero nut for intonation and playability, and it has an adjustable saddle, and it has a tie bar saddle. It's a little different approach than the Flight, but it works. It's not as good as the Flight, but it works. This just is an awful hodgepodge of just awfulness. So with that said, don't buy this expecting great build quality. Now, what is interesting is what is on the inside of this instrument. So I like to put a camera inside and see what's going on. So let's go take a look. All right, here's a look inside the Rainbow Colours Ukulele. We'll come in here and take a look and see what we see, if we can see anything at all. Okay, the inside, you can see the injection port, which does not show on the outside. There is a block of sorts holding up the top on some bracing there. They do have the soundboard supported with a horizontal brace, and there is a bridge plate of sorts. The bridge is screwed in reverse, so if something would happen to the bridge, you would have to basically destroy the entire ukulele because you have to take out the top to replace that bridge. All right, let's take a look what's happening at the upper bout. Okay, I have it as far back as I can get it right now. You can see you have that same ABS construction supporting the wood top all the way across. A neck block of sorts that comes into the cavity. And then looking over here, you can see some more extra support that's added. And that's about it. So it's, a plastic body that's injection molded and then a wooden top. And that's our very brief look at the inside of the Rainbow Colours Ukulele. All right, so we're back. It is kind of interesting to see how that's supported on the inside, something that you don't often get a chance to see. And it's just ABS. And again, the real interesting part is if something happens to your bridge, I guess you're just not going to replace it because there's no way to screw back up once it breaks. So if something happens with that bridge, that's it. The instrument is done. Now, in terms of travel ukuleles, you might say, well, it looks like every other travel ukulele. And it really doesn't. That wooden fretboard does not look good on there. It does not look good on there. The unfinished top does not look good in there. It does have a nice rosette, but it's just unfinished. It's just goofy. And then you have a rosewood fretboard, but a plastic bridge, which, by the way, is not the same as the one that the Panda uses. And also that saddle is molded right into the bridge. It is a compensated saddle, but you are not able to adjust that. So overall, I don't think it looks very good, very plain, very boring, and it's asking for kids to mark up this unfinished top. If you want one of these, you can order them from West Music today. Now, in terms of playability, when you can't play it when it comes out of the box, it is unplayable. So basically the build does not help at all. Even with a different nut, it's not a great playing experience. You have sharp fret ends. The feeling of the wood to the plastic is weird. It's not good. It's not good. Now, when it comes to sound quality, even with a different nut, it's still not great. It's not horrible anymore, but it's not fully in tune yet. And at the same time, it's not as good as the Panda Watercolor that basically this shares most of the parts with. And it's certainly not as good as a Flight Travel ukulele. So, for the price difference, I'd be going to a Flight Travel ukulele any day of the week. Now, one of the things I like to do is let you see what I'm hearing. And keep in mind, again, this is not the original nut, otherwise you'd hear nothing. But here is what's happening with the sound as I play. I play a C chord and let you see what's happening on Tonal Energy Tuner. It's an iPad app. So here we go. Here's the C chord. It's ringing actually longer than it's picking up right now. Yeah, so I'm not trying to make the sound disappear. It's just not being picked up by the iPad app, which is kind of crazy because it picks up a lot of other things with a lot of other instruments. So the sound it's not great, and it's still not playing in tune, even with a different nut. So let's talk about the specifications of the instrument. It's a soprano at 14 inches scale length from nut to saddle. It has 12 frets and no side position markers. It is a double bout body with a rounded back, as most of these travel sort of ukuleles are. The soundboard is laminate something. The back and sides are ABS, as is the neck. The fretboard is oddly rosewood, and the bridge is plastic molded, and it is a slotted bridge. The fretboard is not radius, and the nut and saddle are plastic, ABS. This one actually now is PLA, by the way, because I had to remake it. There is no finish. It's a completely natural finish. The overall length is 21.375 inches from tip to tail, and it weighs 1 pound, 0.1 ounces. The tuner types are very bad open geared tuners in sort of a dual stack formation. The action when I received this one at the first fret was 0 millimeters, and the action at the 12th fret was also 0 millimeters because it was unplayable. The nut width is 35.78 millimeters, and the space at the first fret I can't really measure for you anymore because I put my own nut in there. So I really can't give you those measurements of what the spacing was on this when it arrived. I should have measured that at first, but I was too interested in trying to make this playable. The neck is comfortable. It does have that same texture as a Flight or as the Panda. Now the neck is a little different than many other ukuleles with a 35 millimeter nut. It's a little more narrow, even though the depth is about the same. It's 21.24 millimeters depth at the 3rd fret from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck, but the shape is a little different. So it feels the same as a Panda, and it feels, of course, very similar to a Flight because that is what was being sort of replicated in these instruments. So let's just summarize the instrument. You already know what the rating is going to be because I started off the video with that. It is an instrument geared for education. Could be individual or could be schools, and it's priced at a point that teachers are going to be tempted to buy it, and they need to not. Now again, could there be models of this that work perfectly? Yeah, that's possible, but it could be that they're all not good. And again, with that wooden fretboard, I wouldn't recommend this one, really. With those tuners, I wouldn't recommend it no matter what. Now, I do like the Aquila kid strings that come with it. I think that's great, and that's actually sort of an expensive upgrade for an instrument like this. Aquila actually charges a little extra when you buy a pack of kid strings because then they're donating some to different organizations. And those kid strings are great for teaching because it removes the need for those stickers. Kids can think through 3rd fret blues string. They can actually do that. They don't need a sticker to play C chord because they can do the work. Saying numbers, 1st string, 3rd fret, makes their minds, you can see the smoke coming out. Happens with a lot of adults too. But when you get to the kid strings, it really does make a difference. So I'm glad the instrument comes with the kid strings. I'm glad the booklet taps into the kid strings. But the instrument itself is a poor implementation of it. And again, I was not sent this instrument for review. I paid for it. I bought it like anybody else can just order one off the internet. I did wait for a sale. I don't think they had a stock or a mark. Sale does not work. Send a person that buys on sale. I don't think that's what they did. And I certainly don't mean to pick on West Music for this situation, although I do think that somebody should have checked the instrument before they sent it. So if you are interested in buying from West, and by the way, what happens with music educators is that sometimes we have a list of approved vendors that we can shop with. for example, Parapole or West, and we have contracts with those companies in our district, so they're the only people we can order from. We can't just go to Amazon and buy 50 of this ukulele from that company off of Amazon. It doesn't work that way. We have actual bidding processes and things that have to happen. So when you have a situation like this, if you're ordering an ukulele from West, just don't order this one. Order something else. What a great way to start the new year, with just an absolute not good ukulele, and to say don't buy this one. But that's what I have to do. And again, I do get a little more spicy when it comes to instruments that are geared towards education that don't help education, and this one doesn't. So what I will promise you is that I will be back next week with something better than this, something that doesn't get a 0 in the rating. So if you've made it to this part of the video, thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more uke stuff for you.